This is actually a unique time in which we're actually doing this proclamation, because I think it's for the first time that since we've been doing this, that it's actually on the actual day that it was signed on September 17th. So, and this is about our Constitution and ratifying our Constitution. And, you know, we try and share some witty facts about the Constitution and some of the very interesting things. I'm actually going to take a more serious side and then let Sydney close with some of the humor. Let's just say that we're in a time right now where people are questioning who we are as a country and where we're going to be going. And I think that when folks penned this Constitution, they wanted to make sure that this was a country that embraced us as a collective society, understanding that we would come together for the betterment of all people. And, you know, it's just very interesting in that folks came to this country escaping what they felt was persecution and not being able to do everything that they could in their home country. And it sounds awfully similar to what we see that is happening with immigration and folks who are immigrating to this country now, who are concerned about the very same thing, them being and their rights being stamped out, their freedoms, their livelihoods, their lives being at risk, and they're fleeing to go to another country to start again, to build up. And so this is a time in which I think we should honor and recognize the great work of some of our leaders who were establishing a great way in which we could build this country, a country that would now be what we see as Montgomery County, a very inclusive and welcoming place for all. It is interesting, and I did just want to highlight one of the things that I think was kind of interesting around the time frame of this Constitution and change, because I think we've changed our zoning code more than the Constitution has actually been changed. I think the Constitution has only been changed 17 times. 27, I'm sorry, 27, not 17. And our zoning code probably about like a yeah, something like that. So let me turn to Council Vice President Katz to talk a little bit about the Constitution, and then we'll turn it over to you to say a couple things, and then we'll read the proclamation. All right.
Thank you very much, Craig. And you know, the Constitution is one of those written documents that we just take for granted, and of course we should not, because it is so very important. And they've given us a list of fun facts to discuss. I have 5 that I pointed out. The first is there's actually a spelling error in the Constitution. The word Pennsylvania above the signer's name is probably the most glaring. The second thing that should be pointed out, the Constitution was penned by Jacob Shallis, who was from Pennsylvania. So he obviously didn't pick that up. And he was paid $30 for doing his work, which is, according to this, would be about $830 today. I don't know when this fun fact came out, but I have a hard to believe that it's only be $830 today. The Constitution, as was pointed out, is celebrated on September 17th, and that's the anniversary of the day the framers actually signed the document. And when the Constitution was signed, the United States population was 4 million. It is now more than 327 million, and Philadelphia was the nation's largest city with about 40,000 inhabitants. And then the last one I'll mention is that the national government spent $4.3 million during the first session of Congress from 1789 to 1791. During the last year that George Washington was president of the United States, which was from 1796 to 1797, the entire cost of running the federal government was $5,727,000. It's just interesting how times have changed.
I need my notes too. How many times have you read the preamble to the Constitution? Most of us know about the 7 articles and the 27 amendments, but do you really read the preamble to the Constitution? We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. The preamble of the U.S. Constitution, 52 words, introduces everything that is to follow in the Constitution, the 7 articles, the 27 amendments. It proclaims who is adopting the Constitution: we, the people of the United States. It describes why it is being adopted, the purposes behind this enactment of America's Charter of Government. And it describes what is being adopted: this Constitution, a single authoritative written text to serve as fundamental law of the land. Written constitutionalism was distinctly American, and one that the framing generation considered the new nation's greatest contribution to the science of government. There's a fairly new website put up by the National Constitution Center, and it's a very non-political site. So you can go in and you can get information on the Constitution written by scholars who have spent much time in going through and discussing what the Constitution means. And it's a good place to start any research that you have to do on the Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so we're going to read this proclamation, and Sydney, you and I are alternate.
Yep.
Whereas the Constitution of the United States embodies the ideas and principles of our founding fathers, supplemented by the wisdom that has been reflected in our dynamic republic over 2 centuries, and
whereas September 17, 2019 marks the 232nd anniversary of the framing of our Constitution by the 1787 Constitutional Convention, and whereas the Constitution not only embodies the hopes and aspirations of Americans for liberty and representative government, but also continues to inspire people seeking freedom the world over, and
whereas Constitution Week, celebrated September 17th to September 23rd each year, commemorates the formation and signing of the United States Constitution on September 17th, 1787. Now therefore be it resolved that the County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland hereby recognizes the 232nd anniversary of the United States Constitution and urges constant vigilance of county residents in protecting our liberties and rights for future generations of Americans still to come. Presented on this 17th day of September in the year 2019, signed by myself and Council Vice President Katz and County Council President Navarro.
you all should join us for the Constitution,
Yes, absolutely.
please.
Please.